Well, welcome to Unapologetically Queer with me, Al Ferguson. I am proud to talk to some of the most interesting people that are interesting to our LGBTQ plus community. And today we're going to talk about political activism, but probably in a very different way that you haven't heard before. And the unique ways that we're going to explore in this conversation about how you can protest presidents, candidates for president or governors, or maybe even a governor of the state of Florida. Today, we are joined by Julie Ross, a Davenport, Iowa resident since 1994, who spent most of her adult life quietly raising her daughters. She is a progressive Democrat who, in 2012, decided to attend the Iowa caucus, the Republican Iowa caucus event. In 2016, she set a goal to attend events of every Republican candidate that came to Iowa, ask them a question, and get a selfie. Her selfies have become legendary, with Governor DeSantis and Reynolds holding a snowflake that had secretly in the messaging fascist. It went viral in March of 2023 when our governor was there, presumably to start his Stomping for Presidential Campaign 24. Since 2012, she has documented her interactions with almost 40 presidential hopefuls. She is here to inspire people to attend appearances by candidates and elected officials and to get active in our democracy. So, welcome Julie Ross to Unapologetically Queer. I understand, first off, that you are an unapologetically queer ally. Do I have that right?
I hope that is the case. That's what I strive for.
Yeah, I read, very excited, we did a story about what happened with you and Governor DeSantis when he came to Iowa, and you wrote, quote, "I am proud and delighted and honored that my flakes are appreciated by the LGBTQ plus community and other non-dominant groups. I aspire to be the best ally and advocate I can be," end quote. What a great statement of endorsement and support of marginalized communities. Let's talk right at the top. We'll work kind of backwards, but let's start with the snowflakes. Not any particular one, because I'll get to DeSantis and others, but just in general, your paper cutting of snowflakes. Explain this to us, how you did this as a hobby. How did this come about?
I used to work at a children's museum and teaching various art and interactive activities. And one of them was to teach kids how to cut a proper six-pointed snowflake, which is what they do in nature. And, you know, there's a trick to folding it. And I worked with some really nice, really talented artists who made beautiful snowflakes. And I didn't really have the artistic sense, but I realized I had really nice handwriting, and I could basically cut a snowflake by putting using words. The first word I did was peace, and I ran across to a neighbor. I was so excited because it looked so beautiful, and I said, "Look what I did." And then I immediately thought, I can put bad words in there. I can put any word in there. And went home. I said, "I'll be right back," and cut a beautiful F word and brought it back to her. And we laughed because it was so exceedingly beautiful, and it was just not a very nice word. And, you know, then I'd start from there. And it's funny, people thought they were so funny. And some of the most, what I would deem, this would have been back in 2007. And even the most politically conservative people would come up and say, "Could you cut me one of those flakes?" And that one was for Randy Rainbow there.
Yeah, I see
So,
it. Randy and the rainbow. See, and that's what caught everyone by surprise. If we can show that snowflake again, So you see Randy Rainbow, but it's not immediately obvious. So it looks so innocuous of, oh, that is so pretty. But you have messaging hidden in the snowflake. And if you're not paying attention, it might come up to bite you, which is what's interesting about your activism of how you came to the LGBTQ community and, of course, to Queer News Tonight. I understand that actually you were an introvert. And to me, that's an interesting part of this story, because this is not something you would naturally do. It was something you had to force yourself to do, kind of as a daring yourself into action. And you started with Rick Perry in 2012 with a good question, I understand, because I read about this in a media outlet. Tell us about your first interaction and what you did with Rick Perry in 12.
That one, he was making a stump speech. I mean, now, this is the Iowa caucus, and I must say, Iowans and people in the quad, just across the river in Illinois, we were in a unique position because these candidates just barrel on through, and they want you to come. They will ply you with food and free T-shirts, and in Rick DeSantis's case, free books. They want you to come. So with the Iowa caucus comes special access. So in that sense, people say, how did you see all these people? They were 5 minutes from my house. I mean, so anyhow.
So your activism was close. That's what you just told
Yeah. Yeah. And I went with my older daughter, who was a college student at the time, and I had no intention of asking a question. I am really I never ask questions all through college or anywhere. I just sit quietly. And Perry was talking about the power of the economy of Texas, that they were sixth in the country or sixth in the world, and all the fine medical care that's there. Well, I had Googled. They were second from the bottom, I think, in insuring their children. And so, here I am with my daughter, and, I'm white, I'm older, I'm small. And I raised my hand and I asked him, why, with the power of economy, why are you second from the bottom in the country in insuring children? And it visibly upset him. And he started saying, we have, all these medical care. And I didn't even have the nerve to follow up. I would have followed up and said, so these people are making a decision not to provide their children with health care, but I didn't. And he went on and asked another question, and then he turned back to me, and I can't even remember, and he pointed back at me and said, and I'm going to say one more thing about that. And, and then he didn't take any more questions after that.
And your political activism career is born in that moment.
Yeah. And I do want to add, when I realized with my daughter there, I had a question I needed to ask. I had a panic attack. I thought my heart was going to explode from my chest. I could feel I was terrified, but I did it. And then, it ended up a little reward there. I did get mentioned in a paper. It said a woman.
That's right. Not you by name, but I read it in Associated Press, and the Associated Press reported your question. Another one of the memorable moments was Rick Santorum, and you ask him a question: where in the New Testament, in the words of Jesus, homosexuality is mentioned? That's an exact quote. And I understand later he even still took a selfie with you. What was his answer to your challenge of prove it in the Bible?
He went on. Well, his answer was, I'm not a biblical scholar. And by this point, I was feeling more comfortable with follow-up. And I said, but this is a part of, your campaign, your speeches. And he went on, he twisted it and said, well, I'm talking natural law. And if this is species, and if everyone practiced homosexuality, the species would die out. And of course, then I countered with, what about priests and nuns? And he said, that's what all the liberals bring up. And then I think that was the end. And that particular picture you showed actually was from the Iowa straw poll, not the caucus.
Right.
But that was in 2012, and it was crazy. And that picture was
Julia.
me. He was giving out peach samples, and I had to go try his
Julie,
samples.
I imagine with all of the activism moments that you've had, they just hate it when you give them facts. Facts just it's a terrible thing apparently for presidential candidates that come to Iowa. Speaking of that, Donald Trump, have you had engagement with our former president?
Well, he actually was my first snowflake, because when you do this and then you get a team, yeah, there I am. That was when I was still giving a stack of snowflakes, and I'm handing him a stack of snowflakes. I knew he was not taking questions, because you get ahead, what the security, are they going to be looking in the purse? Are they going to wand you? Whatever. And I knew he wasn't going to take questions, because he just didn't. So that's when I thought, I'll just give him some snowflakes, which I did. And that was a lot of fun. That was actually his first visit. His second visit. Oh, I do want to add, one of the funniest things is, after I gave him those snowflakes, I shook his hand. And right after that, my husband was standing behind me, proudly taking pictures. I turned to my husband and said, he has really small hands. Independently confirmed, because this was before Marco Rubio and all that. I shook his hand and realized it was a small hand. So just
breaking news here at Queer News Tonight: Donald Trump has very small hands. Of course, this year you came to really the LGBT world's attention when our governor, Governor Ron DeSantis, visits Iowa on his book tour. Yes, that's what it was all about. He came to Iowa because of books and book tour. Okay, we got it. And you had one of the most interesting activism moments that I have ever seen. Now, first, obviously, to viewers that may not understand, now, Julie Ross is creating these intricate snowflakes out of paper, cutting with messages like what we showed you with Ron DeSantis. Snowflakes in the election cycle for Republicans is what they called progressives over and over and over again. You're a snowflake, and we're showing you what she presented Governor Ron DeSantis. Fascist in the snowflake. Now, when you had this moment of meeting Governor Ron DeSantis, this is the guy that is crushing all dissent in Florida in every possible way. Women, black, education, students, LGBT, Disney, taking on Disney in every possible way. Petite, motherly Julie Ross meets Governor Ron DeSantis and presents a snowflake. What was the interaction reaction first when you meet Governor DeSantis?
All the candidates, I always liken them kind of to car salesmen. They are sucking up to you big time. And the selfie line is really standard. I mean, he was going back down. And I want to say this is truly a selfie, because I did have one friend there and she wasn't in shot. So I'm really holding up the camera. That's why my face is so big. And I didn't really get to pose properly but anyhow, I actually took a couple of pictures, and he held it up. I was stunned, because I had gotten Charles Grassley and I had gotten Joni Ernst. Those are our two senators here in Iowa, and they are really gunning to be as bad as your governor. but, and then when I realized I'm going to get, yeah, there's me with Chuck. His snowflake said shame. But anyhow, I realized they're not talking to, I was just a blip, not worth mentioning. So that's part of the reason for that incredibly huge smile, because I thought, I can't believe I'm getting away with this again. And then Governor Reynolds, in 2 minutes, I also got Governor Reynolds. And it was like, so I got the
trifecta of whatever we would
trifecta.
call it, right? Grassley
Yeah.
and Reynolds
So,
and DeSantis.
and I said, here, this is for you. And he held it up. And for Governor Reynolds, she said, is this for me? I had made 2. And I'm, oh, yeah, it's for you. Keep it. And that was it. So,
And Julie, and if production could put up Governor DeSantis' snowflake one once again. Now, if you look carefully there, we showed it to you in a larger fashion. DeSantis is holding that where you can clearly see the fascist. When you handed him this snowflake, did the governor ever say anything to you?
no. And that was also the thing. What is stunning is how clearly the word shows up in that, because other flakes, you can look and you don't see it. You have to show them. And the fact, it's just dumb luck that he held it, that it was so readable. And sorry, his fingernails were so dirty. I don't know if you caught that. Early people were commenting how dirty his fingernails are. Yeah, you can blow that up.
Julie,
I don't
I
know
want
if
to
he was
make sure
doing
that
yard
I'm
work
clear. I want to make sure I'm clear. Donald Trump's hands are exceptionally small, and Ron DeSantis's hands have exceptionally dirty fingernails. That's right.
Yes.
I've got this right. I'm a reporter, after all. I'm trying to get facts correct.
It could be chocolate pudding. I don't know. I don't know what's under his fingernails, but
All right. So you presented this snowflake. It was like we reported it at Queer News Tonight, like it was, just amazing news. And it really is on activism from your seat. I couldn't get 100 yards within the governor of Florida before an entire security detail would say, "No, I'm sorry, you're not presenting him any gifts." Then after this moment, I understand you sent a postcard. Something about a postcard. Explain that to me, because I don't understand the details.
actually that was a year ago, and it had
was
just come
before.
up in my memory. I think that was when the whole "Don't Say Gay" was just, and I saw, I don't know if I saw it, somebody else did similar. So I, that was just a thing to send the governor
Oh, I
some
see. You sent him a
postcards with lots
postcard
of
about
gay.
saying gay, and it was a protest observation that you sent on the postcard.
Yeah.
So you were on the radar, and they just, I guess, didn't put 2 and 2 together in terms of the snowflake.
Yeah. What's funny is they had guards, security, and big intimidating men. And I walked through, and they didn't even look at me. I mean, I had my bag that had the snowflakes in it, and they were wanding people. They didn't wand me. He just kind of waved me on through. And I think that's, I've often likened it to older, postmenopausal women are invisible in many ways.
Yeah.
People look past us. And so I'm trying to use it as a secret power that
Yeah.
I have a cloak of invisibility, and I can get in and out and do things other people can't.
A cloak of invisibility. Well, Julie, that's part of the really interesting and amazing story here, because here in the LGBTQ community and our advocacy organizations, HRC, GLAAD, Equality Florida, etc., we're talking over and over and over again of how we spur women, how we spur the Black community, how we spur LGBT, how we spur on our young people to get out and do something against what we're watching. Exactly what you say in your snowflake, fascism. And we're a little perplexed. And it seems like your cloak of invisibility is something that is a model for all of us to watch. In fact, it's one of the reasons that I think your story is so interesting of why you're doing this. And then I read you wrote this, and I'm doing it as an exact quote. Go to the big ticket appearances and to lower profile events. Go to school boards, go to city council meetings, ask questions, document their answers, video, live stream. If folks choose to protest or make social justice statement, they should do it creatively, peacefully. And if it makes people pause to think or laugh, then you have success. Beautiful words of a little humor goes a long way in political protest, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Colbert and Jon Stewart, and I must say that they have guided my thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. Humor adds value. I'm curious, we're getting ready to go into this 2024 presidential election cycle. Everybody's going to traipse into Iowa. What are you looking forward to, and who are you looking forward to in the upcoming presidential election cycle?
Well, I don't know if you were aware, but the Democrat side is not having the caucus. There's some discussion on how it will take place for the Democrats. The Republicans are still sending people through. Plus, the Democrats, there's only Joe Biden running this year. So
Right.
I really don't think, unless I get a good wig and like Groucho glasses, that I would be able to zip in and out of these things anymore. But maybe the snowflake thing, people will see the snowflake. I don't know. I mean, and I also want to say, I gave in 2020, I gave all the Democrats snowflakes. The big difference is I showed them what the word was. Yeah, I would, there's me and Pete. Yeah, I would trace out and say, your name's in here. So, it's just the Republicans. I was a little short on facts there. I'd just say here, sometimes I'd make up a story what it was.
Short
so I
on
don't
facts.
know if I can go to the Republican anymore.
Wouldn't the
I
world
might
be a
try.
better place, Julie, if Donald Trump ever said, I'm a little short on the facts? Wouldn't our world be great if we could admit that just right out of the blue? I want to talk about something you're doing with Raygun. You've partnered with Raygun on a wide variety of clever, poignant swag, including shirts with your snowflake designs. It's a charity event. You said, as Governor DeSantis runs for president, your hope was, quote, wouldn't it be great to see these in crowds of DeSantis appearances, which is true. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing with Raygun.
Well, Reagan, I've been a huge fan. Many of the pictures that I took with candidates, I'm wearing Raygun t-shirts, like the Grassley one that says "Sorry about Charles Grassley," and that was kind of fun. But yeah.
Wait, I've got to make sure.
That was funny.
Can we move that picture to full screen? Look at what's happening here. Charles Grassley, who is one of the most problematic senators in America, is being presented a snowflake while she's wearing a shirt for the Iowa senator that says, sorry, America, sorry about Charles Grassley. How did you get away with that moment and him just be oblivious to the protest that you just did?
He doesn't come, my county, Scott County, leans Democrat. So he doesn't come to our county. I had to drive actually to a little town called Durant, and I went with a friend, and we had a plan. That's my Republican coat that I bought that because it looks Republican to me. But anyhow, we went, it was just a town hall. They have these 99 town hall meetings. And, I went to it and I really wanted to ask him a question that would make him mad, but I didn't. I asked him a question about who was the best on Trump's cabinet. And he said Bill Barr. He was singing praises for Bill Barr. Yeah. But anyhow, afterwards, they're doing selfies. I went up. He was fascinated with that snowflake, which said the word shame. And he looked and looked and looked. And then finally we took the picture. And then it took me a while. I finally unbuttoned the jacket. And I expected a riot to break out. People would throw me out, whatever. Nobody noticed, except my friend Jane, who was taking the picture. And finally, I'm like, okay, I just buttoned up, and then we left, and we're out in the parking lot just laughing really hard because we thought we had so much fun.
The political activism that you're doing is really just genius. I want to come back to Ray Gun for just a moment. You've got to support because it's a charity event that helps in lots of different ways. It's at raygunsite.com. I understand that Ray Gun has partnered with, of all places, The Onion. Of course, they partnered with The Onion, and they have various different other kinds of protesters like you, activists like you, in products that Ray Gun is doing. We reported on the high school graduation that Governor Reynolds presided over, and Clementine walking across with the protest shirt and the book ban shirt, which is a Ray Gun product, and the shout out at trans rights are human rights. When you watch that in Iowa in front of your governor and lieutenant governor, what did you think, Julie?
Oh, I was really proud, and I was really proud that friends of mine, I discovered it because friends tagged me on Facebook and, you put their activism in the same category as the snowflake, which I was really pleased with. I'm like, this is good. It's a fun way. It's a safe way. It's legal. It's ultimately respectful. And it is visible, that the cameras were on, and that these young people, they took advantage of that. They knew they were going to be on camera, and that's bravery. I mean, at this point, I'm mostly retired. I don't have, my kids are graduated and thankfully out of state. I don't have a whole lot to lose, and that these kids took that risk. I mean, there could have been so much blowback, but they were brave and clever, and it's, just, there's humor in that, because the governor was stuck. She couldn't do anything but pose with these wonderful young people. Yeah. And if you watch the video, you see on her face, there's, a little twinge of disgust she's trying to mask, but yeah, it was a very good protest.
Yeah, and we call out her name again. Clementine did an amazing, the entire American LGBT audience saw that moment. Congratulations to you, and the entire American LGBT community sees Julie Ross's snowflake with fascist and shame, and an apology of Iowa's senator to pushing him onto America. It's a very unique form of activism, and we're going to continue to follow you, Julie. We're coming up to a big election in 2024, and while you say you probably aren't going to be able to do anything of note, I somehow suspect that is not true. So we're going to watch you closely. And again, go to raygunsite.com. And Julie, thank you so much. As I said right from the top, you're looking at something very unique that we can all take a page from. Activist, mom, believer in democracy in action. That's what Julie Ross is. And thank you so much for being with us at Queer News Tonight.
It's an honor. I really am honored that you're interested and appreciative. It's makes life worthwhile.
Thank you.